Good evening, I'm Ricardo Gonsalves. The top stories: Australia drops a bombshell at the NATO conference, confirming it's prepared to participate in future airstrikes against Islamic State jihadists.
There is more that needs to be done to ensure that ISIL doesn't continue to grow and spread its poison beyond the region.
Tony Abbott wraps up his India visit tonight with the signing of new agreements. And an Iranian asylum seeker injured at the Manus detention centre dies. Also tonight, goodbye to Joan, but the laughter lives on. Tributes to the champion of the acerbic one-liner, memories of Joan Rivers later in the program. But first, Australia has announced it is prepared to participate in future airstrikes against Islamic State jihadists in Iraq. Foreign Minister Julie Bishop and Defence Minister David Johnston made the announcement a short time ago at the NATO summit in Wales. And our Europe correspondent Brett Mason is there. And Brett, what more did they have to say?
Well, Ricardo, the second and final day of this summit began with cautious optimism that a binding peace deal may be signed between Ukraine and Russia. A meeting is now underway in Belarus, but heavy fighting in Ukraine's east has certainly seen a drop in that optimism here at the NATO summit. The Secretary-General has announced the formation of a new 4,000-strong rapid response force to be based in Poland. That signals a significant shift in NATO's Russian policy, some say the largest shift since the end of the Cold War. Meantime, our Foreign Minister says if asked, Australia will contribute to the international effort to stop the march of IS fighters. NATO's might is unparalleled, and on the second day of the summit, a taste of its military muscle. 22 aircraft from 9 countries, impressing even the greatest world leaders. The Secretary-General has warned the historic alliance has to ready in the face of new threats to peace.
The principal foundations of global security are being challenged in a way we have not seen since the end of the Cold War.
To the east, Russia is ripping up the rulebook with its annexation of Crimea and its troops on sovereign soil in Ukraine. To the south, an arc of instability bends from North Africa to the Middle East.
The British Prime Minister called for a new multinational force deployable anywhere in the world in under 5 days, and for nations to increase their defence spending to 2% of GDP.
Our great alliance must now evolve and refocus on the new capabilities that we need to keep our people safe.
As Western leaders talk, Ukraine continues to burn. Fresh amateur video allegedly shows missiles being fired near the eastern Ukrainian city of Mariupol. There's no indication whether it comes from Ukrainian forces or the rebels. The West plans to fight Russia not with weapons, but with a fresh round of sanctions, ones that could be lifted if a ceasefire is forged at peace talks underway. Australia is among several countries to have already imposed sanctions against Russia. But our Foreign Minister says she won't hesitate to go further if Russia fails to adhere to a ceasefire. As for President Putin's invitation to the G20 summit, well, that depends on his next move.
His actions will be judged. Words are one thing, but actions are another.
Julie Bishop's comments came as she was presented with a rare medal given for her diplomatic work in the aftermath of the MH17 crash.
I'm absolutely touched and honoured.
Good to see you. Where am I sitting? Is that my seat?
2 of NATO's most powerful classmates are anxious to show a united front against another threat. The US wants to build a coalition of the willing to take on jihadists and put its proposal to foreign ministers of 10 countries, including Australia.
There will have to be a coordinated approach with a number of nations who have a stake in the elimination of the ISIL ideology.
Keen to play our part, she says, but only when a formal request is made.
We are some distance from specific requests for an operation set out and designed such that the government can make a firm consideration.
As for putting boots on the ground, no nation expressed an interest in that. While the focus today has clearly been Ukraine and Russia, I understand that a firm decision regarding some form of coalition to tackle the Islamic State is likely to be made later this month during a leaders' meeting in New York. Meantime, the Foreign Minister has signalled that Australian disaster victim recovery and identification teams could return to the MH17 crash site if there is a peace deal signed between the Russian separatist and Ukrainian forces. Both the Foreign and Defence Ministers have left the summit here in Wales. They're headed to London for some security briefings before flying home to Australia. Ricardo?
OK, Brett Mason there in Wales, thank you. Well, she was the undisputed champion of the acerbic one-liner, and tonight the laughter Joan Rivers brought into people's lives is being remembered and celebrated following the announcement of her death.
In the world of stand-up comedy and late-night talk shows, Joan Rivers stood out in more ways than one.
A brain, a caring person.
No man has ever put his hand up a woman's dress looking for a library card.
With her brassy voice and razor-sharp tongue, Rivers started out as an actress before her agent suggested she try comedy. Her big break came on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, where she also broke new ground.
Right smack then and there. Changed my life. I was the first permanent guest host, man, woman, or child, yeah. And only.
Here's Joan Rivers. As her career was taking off, she married producer Edgar Rosenberg, who became her manager and the butt of so many jokes.
I dreamt that Tom Selleck and my husband Edgar Rosenberg were fighting over me, and Edgar won. I was just...
They had a daughter together, Melissa. But her friendship with Carson ended when she chose to host her own show on another network. It failed, and months later, Rosenberg committed suicide.
Some idiot called the house, and they said, "Where's your mother?" Somebody from Philadelphia, and Melissa said, "She's not here." They said, "Well, please tell her your father killed himself."
She would go on to host other shows and received a Daytime Emmy. Award ceremonies saw her career surge again as a fashion commentator. And in 2006, she was unleashed at the Logies.
It's the ugliest award I have ever seen. I don't know why I'm here.
Rivers became just as famous for going under the knife, but last week a routine procedure on her vocal cords saw her suffer a heart attack. Her death announced just hours before an investigation was officially launched at the clinic. In a statement, Melissa Rivers says her mother passed away peacefully, surrounded by close family and friends, though not before making a few glamorous requests for her send-off.
I want it to be Hollywood all the way. Don't give me some rabbi rambling on. I want Meryl Streep crying in 5 different accents.
Making them laugh until the very end. Manny Tsigas, SBS World News.
To the forecast now, major centres firstly. It will be fine in Adelaide. Showers though for Perth with a top of 23 degrees. Fine in Brisbane, Hobart and Darwin. There'll be some showers about for Sydney and a frosty start for Canberra with a top of 15. Further afield, rain settling in Auckland, Wellington, Apia and Tahiti. General cloud about for Noumea and Christchurch. In Southeast Asia, showers, rain and thunder across the region, mostly affecting Bangkok, Singapore, Jakarta and Denpasar. Further north, storms sparking over Manila, drizzle in Tokyo and Taipei, rain in Hanoi and Hong Kong. Heading west, hot and sunny in Baghdad, fine in Tehran, Mumbai and Riyadh, thunder roars over Delhi. In Europe, mild with rain in London with a top of 21 degrees. Warm but wet in Athens, a high of 29. Blue skies over Madrid, 31 there. Similar conditions in Moscow, a top of 29. Cloud gathering over Berlin, Paris and Belgrade. In Africa, rain is forecast in Addis Ababa and Lagos. Ongoing showers for Dakar, fine spells in Cairo, Johannesburg and Casablanca. Across the Atlantic into South America, where there'll be some thunderstorms rocking Buenos Aires and Asunción, showers in Santiago, La Paz and Caracas, lighter rain for Lima and a top of 18 degrees. And for North America, Hurricane Norbert expected to run up the west coast of Mexico. Thunderstorms for Havana, Miami and Chicago. Morning fog fills the air of LA. And that is the world this Friday. There is news around the clock on our website, and there is plenty more on SBS One, so stay tuned. I'm Ricardo Gonçalves. Good night.
a brain, you know, a
No
caring
man
person.
has ever put his hand up a woman's breast looking for a robbery charge.